Fresh from that last hour conversation, we're still rolling with more to talk about here on Breakfast Central. Let's take a look at the front pages. First paper we're going to is the Punch newspaper. Let's see what the Punch newspaper has in store for us. And it's big. Dangote deploys 1,000 trucks. Ipman rallies marketers. Seems like you have Ipman close to Dangote, but Nupeng and the likes, far off. Crude earnings fall by 3.18 trillion naira amid output surge. What does this mean for Nigeria's fiscal or annual budget? Kanu seeks transfer from DSS to National Hospital. We do hear he's not feeling well at all. INEC, Catholic bishops clash over 2023 poll credibility. The church is coming into the polls now. Anyway, emergency rule, Abbas defends 6-month tenure as opposition demands probe. Will he be probed? That's another question the opposition party is asking. Wike Fubara actually shunned transition Thanksgiving service because they were not spotted there in the church. PDP, LP, Mossab, others call for accountability as Fubara returns on September 18th, which is this Thursday. States pledge quality education in schools resumed today amidst another very I'd say tough headlines that you find in the next paper concerning schools resumption. Lagos stops 6-story building construction after Punch report. Ogun urges residents to actually do something to relocate over flood threat. That's all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch newspapers. We'll take a look at other papers before we settle in on what to talk on.
But before we move on, I think we should just touch on one or two things. I have some comments to make on a few of the news items here. Dangote deploys 1,000 trucks, Ipman rallies marketers. Dangote, over the weekend, or just towards the tail end of last week, said they're doing this to, relieve Nigerians and bring better service delivery to their doorsteps. And they're saying by this initiative alone, filling stations I should use petrol station, because when you use filling station, people think in terms of Valentine spirit feeling. No, it's not that. Petrol stations, gas stations will be able to sell premium motor spirit at 840 naira a litre. But Ipman is saying, look, and Nupeng, that he's trying to monopolize, that he's just doing this to catch Nigerians, that once he's established his customer base, he will reveal his true self. So we're in between the devil and the deep blue sea. We've seen how Nupeng has operated in the last 60 years, but we haven't seen the full scale of Dangote. So Nigerians, for now, we're enjoying the good news. We just want to pay little. We don't want to bring out more money from our pockets. So it's an interesting debate, and wait to see what happens. And then another side, I saw a video this weekend of the trucks moving towards the Dangote refinery and the Lekki-Epe Expressway. They took over one side of traffic, and people that live around that area were apprehensive. They're making comments like, I hope this will not turn to another Apapa, that I hope we will not suffer gridlock at the expense of so-called development, and that they should put the infrastructure first before all of these things happen. So we're looking at the state authorities and the federal government to do something about alternative routes or develop the infrastructure, make the roads wide enough so that if we see all these tankers flying the way, it wouldn't disturb the flow of vehicular traffic. And somebody put a comment there, I laugh in real estate companies selling land. I laugh in 5 minutes away from Dangote refinery. They always like to do those sorts of things as part of their marketing gimmick. So you deal with the traffic when it comes to.
That's something I never want to think about or deal with, traffic. Anyway, go on YouTube and drop a comment in our chat box, and just let us know your thought about whatever it is that we're discussing. We want to take your analysis, and we'll open the phone lines as well for you to call in and share your thoughts. I'll just take a few comments from YouTube, and then I'll go to the next paper. Now, this is regarding our former interview. John Blaze says, this woman don't vex. So, Mokunye Chukwemeka says, God bless you, madam. And then he says, put your Theophilus Akatuba in his place. We also saw John Blaze saying she's correct. Patriarchy in Nigeria has its roots in the colonial era. And another question was, where is the role of your father? And I agree, that's a valid question. We're putting all the blame and saying that women are the ones who, the fabrics of the society, women are the one who train the children. Where is the role of the father? Isn't the father the head of the home anymore?
He's watching Premier League in beer parlor. Supposedly a Chelsea fan again, and that matter.
Not absolutely.
Chelsea fan.
Not absolutely.
Yeah, everything is not absolute. But when the men talk about women, they speak as if they're homogeneous.
Exactly.
That all women have the same line of thought.
I don't think all men.
I mean, you deal with people on an individual basis.
Yeah, I don't think all men.
I want to take the final comment before I move to the next paper. Bokuye Chukwemeka says, Joe, Olive and Gbenga. On a not so funny side, my landlord has increased my rent to 1.5 million naira from 650K.
Wow,
How you want to do so? Make it make sense. Over 100% increase. Over 100% increase. 100% increase would have been 1.3 million naira. And this is what it is.
And I'm sure his salary hasn't doubled.
It hasn't doubled. We, of course, will be taking one more paper and then we would
just in a rush.
All right, let's go through the Guardian newspaper. On the front page of the Guardian newspaper, parents struggle with steep tuition hike as schools wrestle rising OPEX. Punish politicians in early election campaign, Serap tells INEC. If 11 states may experience heavy rain this week, federal government warns. Experts divided over Fubra's return as emergency rule expires Thursday. Akpabio urges Nigerians to tarry, says Tinubu's reforms will bear fruits. That man warns against divisive narratives in downstream sector. INEC orders tasked on credible polls to avert protest. Chekarao's PDP chairmanship ADA's prospect on central ADC coalition. Aregbesola condemns APC's economic policies. Don blames poor nutrition policy execution for 45% child morbidity. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
Well, that's what we're going to take on the papers, unfortunately, but fortunately, not because we just want to stop here, but because we have a guest joining us. Unfortunately, he's been stuck in traffic, but he joins us via Zoom, and we're going to have this conversation. We'll be talking to the Special Advisor, Media and Public Communication to the President Bola Tinubu. We're talking about Honorable Dr. Sunday Dare, who joins us this morning. Thank you so much for making time to find a way to join us, regardless of the very chaotic Lagos traffic. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, News Central.
Good morning. So much to talk about. We hoped that we would be able to make enough time to speak on this, but we'll try and see how we can make time, make do with the little time that we have. First of all, welcome. It seems there's been a media tour and there's been conversations around what the president has been doing, the presidency, and also a lot of information that Nigerians need to quickly ingest. I'm going to start off first by speaking on a very critical one. Let's start off first by highlighting what we just saw over the weekend, looking at your reputable portfolio, which has got to do with the sporting sector. Permit me to start on that note. I don't know what your thoughts are. I haven't heard from you. It's quite unlikely that we're expecting a possible message from the special advisors to the president. But then again, we know you also leave that to the Athletics Federation of Nigeria. But what's your take on what we saw athletes put out on Sunday, or over the weekend rather, concerning the athletes' welfare and most importantly, their kits? Because this is a critical sector for you.
Thank you very much. I think that very often distractions like this come up during such international meets, and very often you don't get reactions because you need to stay focused. The athletes need to stay focused so that they're not distracted. Again, this is still ongoing. There are several sides to the developments you see there. The AFN has responded to whatever happened, but I think the focus of the country is on the athletes who have trained for so long and are going to compete in several heats. You know, we're hitting the semi-final heat before you get to the finals. They're making progress, Tobia Musa, Sunday, and all of that. And I think that should be the focus. It's very easy to get distracted. I know other countries have made it a rule to say once you get started, no one should distract the team until the end of the competition. Unless the circumstances you're dealing with is extenuating. It has to be with a sickness, a broken leg, or something really serious. But beyond that, other countries have a code of conduct to say, wait until we finish what we are here to do. So sometimes these needless distractions ought to be kept very low. I'm not saying hide anything, but what purpose will it serve if it distracts the entire team from doing what they will do? So right now, the focus is on supporting our athletes, making sure that they're less distracted, and making sure they get the job done.
All right, let's now move away from sports and then come back to the state of the economy and talk about a statement that went viral and was widely criticized. The presidency did announce that we have met our revenue target. What would you say to critics who have said that this revenue target has been achieved because of the tax bracket that's been widening, that it has been in a way detrimental to citizens as opposed to beneficial?
Well, I think the President Bola Tinubu, made a statement of fact. And he preceded that statement, and I was there that night. He says, I've spent a few hours and days going through the data and the rest. That means being briefed by the chairman of FIRS, being briefed by the finance minister, and based on the briefing, we have met our revenue target. This country had a revenue target. And when we met that revenue target, the president made a statement of fact to announce that we met our revenue target. I don't know why that is eliciting different reactions. Is it not credible? Should we not give the president kudos for making sure that this country has met its revenue target? One of the cardinals of every government is raising enough revenue for growth and developmental projects. Two sources of revenue are there for countries: tax revenue and also revenue from resources, oil and gas, diamond, whatever it is. Now, the first one, which is tax revenue, we have met that. Recall when it took over, what was the revenue then? It was barely 9 million. We're now looking at almost 21 trillion. That means every country must generate enough revenue through taxes and other means to be able to continue to meet the needs and demands of various sectors: health sector, infrastructure, transportation, education. And for a country of 230 million, raising the revenue, meeting the tax revenue is big deal. And this president is on course. We also have the tax reform bills already coming on into enforcement in January. There is a focus to make sure that the fiscal space is widened. That's the only way development can come about. President Bola Tinubu has widened the fiscal space of this country using the tools other countries use: taxes and also increase from our resources. The barrels of oil produced has gone up from 900,000 to 1.3. Now we're at 1.6. That is huge. This government should get some credit for staying the course.
Now, Mr. Sondidare, as we speak this morning, Mr. President is currently outside the shores of the country on a working holiday. The President has taken at least 15 international trips this year alone, 2025. How do you respond to concerns about the cost of these trips? Assume the position of chief diplomat, while many Nigerian embassies are reportedly underfunded, and we haven't appointed ambassadors 2 years into his administration. How is the government ensuring that these trips translate into tangible results for Nigeria, not just follow-ups? And what is the government doing about the diplomatic situation where we have countries without ambassadors and the state of our embassies and representation abroad?
Yeah, that's quite a loaded question, but fine. But let me take a stab at each of them. Let me start from ambassador appointments. The president has been forward about it 3 weeks ago at the dinner in the villa. He said we're reworking the postings again because of so much pressure, so much considerations, because of the need to balance. And I think that's important. So the president has been quite upfront. For him to have spoken about that, it shows that it's not in the cooler, that process is ongoing, and we should allow that process to take place. Having said that, I think the number one diplomat for any country is the president of that country. And you can draw parallels from President Trump of the United States of America, from the Indian president. Every president is the #1 diplomat. And we've seen other presidents move around. These trips by President Bola Tinubu are clearly justified. And prior to every trip, a clear statement is released, stating the agenda, stating the duration, stating the importance of that. So there's a preview of that trip. There's a coverage of that trip proper. And then there's a post coverage that shows what are the benefits and how do we follow through. And the president makes the biggest pitch. The minister can speak, but when the president speaks to a particular issue, then you know that it's going to get the attention of other countries. And when you look at it, these places the president has been to, you have presidents of other countries being there. So beyond the solo bilaterals, you have meetings he has gone to. Is it the G20? Is it BRICS? That you meet other presidents who did not sit at home. They also came. In the nature of diplomacy and global politics, you must get on that plane. You must hit the ground. You must get to those places, those capitals, those global meetings to be able to make a pitch with your team. That has been the conduct of government over time. And when you do benchmarking, I see we reel out the number of times he has traveled. We just need to put a thumb down and check the number of times other people have traveled. In any case, we are a developing country. This administration has priorities. We're looking towards the global south. AGOA has ended already. We're trying to beef up after to make sure that, within the African continent, the ECOWAS sub-region, we increase trade and investment. So there's a clear agenda. And this president is not a citizen, because he knows that beyond the work at home, you also need to do some negotiations directly to get the job done. And let me talk about Brazil. Let's just talk about the latest trip that he made. Imagine Brazil. He went 3 times. But the third time we went, we saw massive benefits coming into our country. The first one was the BASA arrangement, the direct flight, cutting a 20-hour trip to 7.5 hours. That's key. Trade and investment, mechanized agriculture, creating more than 100,000 jobs and 5 million indirect jobs. So there are benefits. There are benefits from each of these trips that are trackable. And I think that these trips are important. These trips are timely.
All right. I mean, you've talked about the trip. I would have loved to stay on that, but because of time, because there are also reactions that despite these frequent trips, Nigerians are not seeing the benefits, because we still have a lot of youths who are jobless and roaming around the streets. And therefore, the cost of...
This takes time. In the nature, we signed a lot of MOUs. When you have agreements and MOUs, there is a process. It's not automatic. It's not. Whether it's, in the case of Nigeria, the rules of engagement cannot change. When you sign an MOU, what follows thereafter is that both countries set up a bi-national commission from both sides, from different sectors, to sit down and work out the nitty-gritty. And they will granularize whatever the MOU is. They will set a timeline. It might be visits, it might be... And then if it also involves funding, it's also a process. But let me also point out, for instance, with the one with Brazil, we've seen 20,000 tractors coming. 2,000 tractors coming. We've seen 25,000 farm implements coming. We've seen loads of fertilizer coming. Just recently, fertilizers were distributed for free to our farmers. So when it comes to these trips, there's a gestation period. It's not automatic. It takes a few months. If it's quick, it takes a year or two. But the Binational Commission or the special committee works from both sides to make sure that they itemize and prioritize, and that will come forward. When you talk about our youth, I think beyond the MOUs, this administration is doing much more for our youth. Just the youth credit was launched recently. The Youth Investment Fund will start rolling out funds for our young people. The 3 MTT done by the Communications Ministry, the uptake is going up. So just 2 weeks ago, the NDE rolled out the second phase of its entrepreneurship and skills training program that will benefit 46,000. The initial one benefited 41,000. So recently too, the First Lady empowered 5,000 young women. So you look at it from multiple angles. The issue of youth unemployment is being addressed, and it goes beyond just empowerment. It goes beyond investing in their skills. It also encompasses providing them with funding so that they can become young entrepreneurs. And that's the future of our youth. Skills, upskilling, and also entrepreneurship. And this government is on the right track in that direction.
All right, Honorable Dari, I just want to ask this very key question. Just when the president resumed office, he did make the strong statement, which of course many would hold on for as long as possible in his administration, that subsidy is gone, okay? But there seems to be very little information from the presidency and also from your office or the office of the special advisors on how much has been saved from the subsidy that has been removed and what it's being used for in terms of how much is being shared. Now, I know that we've brought in a lot of persons who have joined us from the APC, and we usually hear the word which I've coined to be GIN, which is GIN. You always hear that subsidy goes for G. G, which stands for more governors have more money. I, which stands for infrastructure. N, which definitely stands for NEL fund. So can you share with us how much, why is it that the presidency is holding back from telling Nigerians how much has been saved from subsidy and where these monies are being allocated apart from GIN?
So when it comes to finance and accountancy, I'm not a financial expert, but you know, it's the computation of what is saved in subsidy is on a continuous basis, you know, on a yearly basis. What we know is that what we were spending before on subsidy was $7.5 billion per annum. So you can do that. That's 7.5 million in the last 2 years. We've been able to save that. So it's going to be on a continuous basis because we know what we've been losing. That money is now captured for other purposes. And when you say, where has the subsidy money gone? Well, it's simple. And the government has explained this severally. They have said, we have used this money, we're using this money for legacy projects. And I can list a number of them. The Lagos-Calabar, which traverses more than 7 or 8 states. The Sokoto-Badagry, that traverses 13 states to create more economic zones. The Kano-Maradi Rail, 128 kilometer stretch. That's just a bit of the infrastructure. The 260 roads that we see being done across the country, across all geopolitical zones, is partly funded from the budget and the money that has been saved. So these monies are well spent. Look at the health industry, for instance. The National Insurance Scheme is backed compulsorily for civil servants. Don't forget that the United States has withdrawn funding to most of its health support funding have gone out. Yet the president has gone ahead to mandate not only the national health insurance for our civil servants, but just last week, 29 billion was sent out for the national social health insurance for every state, including the FCT. So the monies are being properly spent. Beyond that, we see this country paying down its debt. The president in the last 2 years plus has been able to pay down 16 different international loans, inherit as far back as the Obasanjo period. We've seen the IMF loan paid down. We've also seen this president spend almost 360 billion for agri. We've seen budget for defense also go up. But in all of this, we also see a government working very hard to increase its internal revenue. So you can point to where these monies are, and I've stated quite a number of them. And that's important to note. Are all these problems going to go away at once because we have subsidy money saved? No. In a country of 20 million, you look at what our budget is. Our budget is a minuscule. It's about 23% of what we need for a country of 230 million. And the experts have said that repeatedly. So in the presence of competing needs, in the present process, this government is trying to touch every critical sector, from road transportation, rail transportation, health, youth development, and so many critical sectors are in focus and in the top drawer of President Bola Tinubu.
Okay, I mean, thank you very much for explaining this and saying to us that this a number of the reforms we're expecting to see results from might take time. But if we look at this year, the government has cut electricity subsidies by 35%, and there's a planned fuel surcharge of 5% for some time in the coming year. I think my question would be, what is the long-term plan to protect citizens from the impact of these reforms?
Okay, so let me take care of the 5% surcharge. That has been explained severally. The 5% surcharge is not new. It was there since 2007. And under the FEMA Act, they're the ones that fix the road and the rest. And it's been clear that it will not be activated even next year until the Minister of Finance sees it right and can justify it in a letter to Mr. President. So any worry about that? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, can you?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Nigerians need not worry about that 5% tax. It has been explained. It was inherited. It's in the books. And this government will not introduce it until such a time that the finance minister thinks that should happen. This president will not bring any pain, any tax burden to bear on Nigerians unless it's absolutely necessary and unless it's absolutely justified. Recall that this same president 2 weeks ago removed the 5% telecom tax. Why are people not talking about that? That's also important. The 5% telecom tax. Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
The president also removed the 5% telecom tax. That is also significant. Under the new tax regime that starts January 1st, 2026, 51 different taxes were consolidated into 11. Payee tax is no longer there. Certain foodstuff for the common people does not also carry any tax. I think that there's a presence of mind. There's empathy also on the part of the president in designing these policies to make sure that the harsh effects on our citizenry is limited.
Now, Honorable Sondidari, let's talk about youth unemployment and youth restlessness. A huge percentage of Nigeria's population is under 40, and we should be using this demographic to our advantage. And the official statistics is that 2024, MBS puts youth unemployment between 15 and 24%. And a lot of people will tell you that that's very conservative. How does the presidency reconcile these figures, and what concrete steps is this Bola Tinubu administration taking to turn this statistical gains into real jobs for Nigerian youths, and also deal with youth restiveness? If you just move around the country, you'll see a lot of young Nigerians underemployed or unemployed.
So let me list some of the concrete steps. I'm sure you recall the era of bursary. Bursary kept most of us in school. Without bursary, some of us will have no education today. That is some kind of scholarship and support money. NEL Fund is a running success right now, signed into law and funded by Mr. President. As we speak, 86 billion naira has been expended to support the education of our young people. I think that's massive. It's something that has never been experienced in a long time. That addresses not just the education, but also takes most of them who are on the streets back into school. They also get a stipend of 20,000. I think over 600,000 of our young people have been taken care of. That's one. Two, the youth credits just introduced about 3 months ago provides some kind of credit for our young people. That's important. The National Youth Investment Fund that gives out between 250,000 to 10 or 50 million to our young entrepreneurs is already on board. There was increase from 67.5 billion to 110 billion naira by President Bola Tinubu. That is significant. The 3MTT done by the Communications Ministry is also targeted at our young people. Yeah, the young people must move forward to apply themselves to these opportunities. That's when it can make the impact that is necessary and that's desirable. Also in agriculture, we also have the Young Farmers Scheme for our young people. So when it comes to youth unemployment, the approaches are multifaceted. You get some of them into schools. You get some of them upskilled. I talk about the NDE employing 46,000 under the entrepreneurship employment scheme. That is massive. We keep doing all these policies and projects.
Okay. Are you there?
Don't worry.
Okay. I mean, hopefully we did get that. So you said there are a lot of things that are being put in place. Honorable Sondidari, are you there with us?
We seem to have lost connection with him.
Hopefully he joins us. I think one of the key questions that I would also like to touch on, there's so many so many of them to touch on. Hopefully, we do have enough time, and we are looking to have him join us back.
And also, I wanted to follow up on that question, because loans are loans, and you need to pay back loans. And to pay back loans, you need to be gainfully employed to pay back loans. So what about those that are not in school, those that are not within the agricultural sector, the army of unemployed youths just roaming the streets, being area boys and touts and just with no lease in life? What is the plan to get them employed? He mentioned the National Directorate of Employment, NDE, about 43,000 jobs. That's a tiny drop in the ocean of millions of unemployed youth. So does the government also see unemployment as a security threat to the well-being of Nigerians? Because these, like they say, the idle mind is a devil's workshop. They're easy targets for recruitment for terrorist groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP and what have you, because they're not doing anything much, and it's easy to recruit people that are not gainfully employed. So is the government seeing it as a clear and present danger and a national security threat? These are some of that was my follow-up to my question on youth unemployment and restiveness.
Very interesting follow-up. I think there are other angles to equally look at. There's also the case of corruption. I mean, the Honorable Dr. Sunday Dare himself is a seasoned journalist who one journalists have looked up to over the years in terms of his reportage and so on and so forth. But then again, there's also the serious case of some of the major challenges that's been happening right now, especially in the issue of journalists being, gagged, the media being gagged, some journalists going as far as carrying out investigative reports and putting it out there. And he's one of the seasoned journalists in time past up until today who have cut their teeth on carrying out very interesting investigative reports. Take, for instance, in 2011, where he got the invitation to be a fellow at the University of Oxford. He also chaired one of the very interesting research which had to do with a case study. The theme was using new media tools and citizen journalism to investigate corruption in Nigeria.
We're using it. Fisayo Shirombo is using it.
So that's what I'm coming to. So you have a Fisayo who has done the job already. I mean, he's very interested because, like I said, he was a fellow. He spent his time at Oxford University, he spent his time looking at how new media can support the case of cutting off corruption. And if he did that in 2011 and now he's in power, I was expecting that by now we'd see how the likes of Fisayo Shirombo, not forgetting to other investigative journalists, for instance, one keeps screaming, P1 real estate, of course, Scott.
And we have to get out of the studio, but I'm hoping that we can have updates and come back tomorrow to find out Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has sought the order of the courts to transfer him from the DSS custody to the National Hospital because his doctors have said that they've noticed a decline in his health. And he's asking that a right to life would also include a right to health, being treated. And the court will hear that today and we'll bring updates tomorrow. But this is all that we have for you on the show today. Thank you for joining us.